Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's staying cool and hydrated out there. We'll wait just a minute while everyone gets logged into Zoom for the webinar. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webinar on COVID-19 guidance for early learning and care contractors. This webinar is being presented by the California Department of Education's Early Learning and Care Division and Fiscal and Administrative Services Division. This webinar is being held on June 18th, 2021, and is scheduled to run from 10 a.m. until 11 a.m. And with that, I'd like to welcome the Director of the Early Learning and Care Division, Stephen Profiter.
Wonderful, thank you, Eric. So as Eric mentioned, my name is Stephen Profiter. I'm the Director of the Early Learning and Care Division at CDE. Welcome everyone to our last webinar of the fiscal year. It's been a long journey, and while we are certainly not through it yet, it's important to mark our milestones and pause and reflect on where we've been and where we're going. While life has looked a lot different over the last year plus, we're not just getting closer to normal, but we have state and federal administrations that are committed to building back better as we emerge from the pandemic. One major milestone we experienced this week is the full reopening of our state. This means no more physical distancing, capacity limits, county tiers, and then relaxed mask guidance. We've all made sacrifices this past year, and we would not have been able to get to this point without the help of every Californian working together. We are stronger together. And this moment in the pandemic just shows just how effective that we can be when we are invested to make changes together. Before I hand off to Erica, I wanted to just note a few things here. Yesterday, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, signed legislation or signed an order making or recognizing June 19th as a federal holiday. And June 19th, of course, is significant because it is Juneteenth, the day when, back in 1865, when federal soldiers kind of shared the news and kind of freed shared the news of the emancipation, the end of slavery in Texas. I'd also like to note that this month is Pride Month, and we celebrate Pride Month and celebrate the freedom of being ourselves. And so I think with that, with those two very important, notable things to celebrate, not just today, tomorrow, and this month, Wanted to note that, and I will ask Erica now to join us, our Associate Director.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Erica Otieno, Associate Director at CDE for, I think 12 more days. Because on July 1st, 2021, a large team of the Early Learning and Care Division staff and I will transition to the California Department of Social Services to continue the good work that we've been doing for children and families. Before I get to the activities of the Program Quality Implementation Office, we call ourselves PQI, I just want to take a moment once again to let you know how appreciative we are of everything that you have done and continue to do for your staff, providers, children, and families. And now that we have COVID under control, we can all breathe easy. Please, even in the midst of our busiest days, let's make sure that we take a moment to acknowledge and celebrate our accomplishments because we have done a lot. In that spirit, I will share some accomplishments during this scheduled time for PQI updates in this webinar. I just want to close by saying Happy Father's Day to all fathers. Thank you again for joining. I'm going to hand it over to Virginia.
Thank you so much, Erica and Steve, and every one of you for being here with us today at our last webinar before the transition of programs to DSS. It's been a true honor to get to work with you all over the last while, and as we look to the future coming out from COVID, we're looking forward to continuing to work very closely with all of you in the field. I know that many of you have questions about different aspects of budget and policy, and so we'll talk more about that later. But again, thank you to everyone that has been engaged in that process. This is not something that the legislature and the governor, or even us at CDE, can do without the critical input you're providing to inform that process. So we're working hard behind the scenes at CDE to help as they come to a final agreement, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to Alana, who will be our moderator.
Happy Friday, everybody, and also a happy Pride as well. I'm Alana Andrade, and I am a child development consultant in the policy office here at ELCD, and I'll be your moderator today. And to help answer those questions behind the scene, again, we have an amazing group here and ready to answer questions as they come in. Do be noted that some of the questions that you have are things that we don't yet have guidance for, and so we'll try and answer them as best as we can. Also, we do not normally have the hand raise feature open, and it's a bit stuck right now. So we are not going to be utilizing the hand raise feature. Please utilize the Q&A feature instead. And once again, also our chat box is also disabled. So really the way to talk to us is through the Q&A. And again, don't rush. Take your time before you answer a question. We want to make sure that we get every bit of information so that we can best answer you. And here today to help best answer you, also from the policy office, we've got Danielle Davis and Eric Dunk and Mai Thao. From the Program Quality or PQI office, as Erica said, we've got Mignon Pollard, Lupe Lopez, Cassandra Lewis, Brittany Sheffield, Mitchell Martinez, Dear Zong, Richard Miller, and Katina Boulay. From the Child Development, Nutrition, and Fiscal Services division, we've got Andrea Johnson, Alan Lynch, and Kate Washington. From the Child Development Management Information System, CDMIS, we have Robert Hom and Carly Nonohara. From the Funding Applications Unit, FAU, we have Shane Deirdroni. And from the Appeals Unit, we have Patty Munez and Amanda Corchado. And to answer any questions regarding fiscal or the food program, we have Shakshi Shamra. I also, again, just want to mention our fabulous Technology Service Division, who has ensured that our Zoom link is live for you today, and also ensure that there's closed captioning. And to turn it on, just click on the CC button on the bottom right corner of your screen. Once again, our team is committed to being as responsive as possible. We're not going to be able to answer every question, especially things that are very new and not quite signed yet. But we're here to answer as much as we possibly can. And now back over to Stephen. Although, Stephen, you do look frozen from my end, but perhaps we can still hear you.
I'll do a little check here for the team. Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you. You're just paused drinking coffee. So,
but
we can hear you though.
Well, that's unfortunate. Okay. Maybe I'll turn off my video, turn it back on and see if that fixes things.
That's okay. We all have to drink coffee, Steve. Okay, your video is great. Thanks.
Okay, wonderful. So apologize, everybody. As you can tell, I've been having some technical difficulties, but I think I'm back now. There's a couple notes that I did want to cover that I didn't cover on my earlier slide. So I wanted to share a couple things around our appreciation for your grace and your patience with us at the state level as we're working through this transition of programs from CDE to CDSS. July 1 is right around the corner. Erica, I think, mentioned we're 12 days away, and even fewer, business days, right? But even as we're doing that, as we have been, and even as we move beyond July 1, we're continuing to work closely with CDSS on solutions for those short-term and long-term issues. We're working towards permanent solutions where needed, and then even just some transition issues where things need to be triaged. As I mentioned, this is our last webinar of the fiscal year. And I do want to thank each and every person in our programs from the bottom of our heart for all of your dedication to children and families. Regarding this being our last scheduled webinar of the fiscal year, we do plan on continuing these webinars beyond July 1. We're not certain exactly what the exact frequency that we'll be able to host these, but rest assured we will communicate that information out as soon as we have it. And now if we can move to, I think, our agenda. I think we're covering the agenda slide. Beautiful. Thank you very much. Okay, so looking at this morning's agenda, we've got a pretty full slide here. Some guests this week that we don't normally have on. So really exciting to have the fuller team on. So our policy office will be joining to provide some updates on some various budget-related items. We're going to be providing an update on some of the transition-related guidance, including some that was released earlier this week. Our PQI team has some information from the wonderful You Are Heroes webinar that was last week, and then some end-of-year data, and then some information on consultant caseloads. Our fiscal team will be on to address some urgent emergency childcare augmentations, reserve accounts, and fiscal analyst assignments after July 1. And then finally, we have our appeals team on to discuss parent appeals for CSPP after July 1. As we work through our agenda, we've got a full team on, as Alana described, to work through questions in real time. We'll visit some questions at the end of our webinar. Please use the Q&A function to get your questions in. And with that, I'm going to ask Virginia to present our policy updates.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve, and everyone for being here. So you likely all know, but I know the budget update is a top topic on everyone's mind. So we wanted to let you know where it is in the process, and also explain the email a little bit more that we sent out yesterday on family fees. So just to summarize, At this point, the legislature and the governor have still not yet reached an agreement. The legislature has passed a legislative version of the budget, which is Assembly Bill 128, which is currently on the governor's desk. However, as I mentioned, we know that the governor and the legislature are continuing to negotiate on this, so those negotiations are ongoing. Right now, we're in the process of waiting for the budget to become law. And at this point, even though both the Assembly and the Senate and the legislature have agreed on a budget, they still are in those negotiations with the governor, which means that even though Assembly Bill 128 is passed by the legislature, the final deal with the governor could result in changes to it. So we cannot give directives to our programs until we have the legal authority to do so, and that requires a bill to be passed and then signed. So at this point, we're in we're waiting, and as a result, we cannot release full guidance around a number of areas. So specifically, a big area of discussion is reimbursement rates. Another one is distance learning. Another one is how the hold harmless would work. And then another one is family fees. Now, you likely saw the email that we sent out yesterday about family fees, and I wanted to explain what that is because I think there may be some confusion about that. So this is sort of similar to what we said on our last webinar. We do not yet know what will happen in the budget. However, conversations about waiving family fees are part of the discussion, and while we don't have final decisions, we wanted to spare contractors the burden of doing a bunch of billing and collecting of family fees if then those fees would need to turn around and be refunded as soon as the budget passed. And so this email is really not saying for sure what is happening. It's just saying until we see what's in the final budget, until we know for sure what's happening, hold off on billing and collection. Now, if the budget comes out and it turns out that family fees are not waived, then we'll give direction on how to collect family fees for your families. If it turns out that family fees are waived, for any of you who have already collected family fees, we'll give direction on how to refund those. So if you're at a spot where you've already collected family fees, we are not telling you to refund those fees to parents. But if you have not collected family fees yet, we're simply saying maybe wait so that if they are waived in the budget, you have less work to do to refund them later. So it's really sort of us trying to help you eliminate some administrative burden down the road, because we know that this timeline is really tough for you. We know that, you know, when the budget is passed, there are going to be things that go into effect July 1st, but now we're getting closer and closer to July 1st. So this email is our attempt to say, we think something could happen here. And even though we can't tell you what exactly is happening, this is an area where you can hold off on taking action and delay in case those waivers do come through. So I wanted to clarify that because I know there are already some questions in the chat. And we know that this is hard in other areas because you all want to know, well, is distance learning going to be allowed? What's happening on how programs will be reimbursed if they have to close due to COVID? What's happening in terms of our reimbursement rates? And we, like you, will like to know the answer to those questions as well. And so similar to everything as part of this process, we urge you to contact your legislators and the governor to share your concerns and thoughts as they continue to go through this negotiation process. So that is it for the budget update. I'm sure there are probably lots of questions, so I'll direct myself to the chat and pass it along to Crystal Devlin for updates on transition-related guidance.
Thank you, Virginia. Good morning, everybody. The California Department of Education, CDE, and the California Department of Social Services, CDSS, understand that the transition of many of the early learning and care contracts to the Department of Social Services on July 1, and the state preschool program contracts remaining with the CDE has a substantial impact on our ELC programs, and we are working collaboratively to mitigate administrative burden for contractors to the extent possible. Through our collaboration, we are developing and releasing joint guidance on items related to the transition as agreements are made between the departments. The CDE and the CDSS issued the initial joint transition guidance to the field on June 16th. This guidance was sent through email to all subscribers of the CDE email distribution list and included guidance regarding contract requirements that all contractors are required to adhere to in fiscal year 2021-22. All contractors will continue to adhere to the funding terms and conditions and program requirements of their contracts. The FTCs are available on both the CDE and CDSS websites. The program requirements for state preschool programs are posted on the CDE website, and for all other contract types, the program requirements have been posted on the CDSS website. All contractors will also continue to adhere to the 12-month eligibility requirements, and the new Title V regulations that go into effect July 1 have been posted to the CDE website as well. For licensing requirements, unless exempt from licensure, all center-based programs and family child care homes are required to maintain a facility license issued by the CDSS Community Care Licensing Division. For your fiscal year 2021-22 contracts, the CDE and the CDSS have worked together to minimize disruption to the field as a result of the ELC programs transferring to the CDSS on July 1st, 2021. As such, the CDE will be issuing initial fiscal year 2021-22 contracts on behalf of the CDSS, and the CDSS child care contracts began being issued on or about June 1, 2021, and detailed instructions on where to return your fiscal year 2021-22 CDS contract is also included in the contract instructions. Included in the initial guidance released to the field on June 16th were two attachments that included the consultant directories for the CDE and CDSS, which will be effective on July 1st. While only the names and assigned counties for consultants were provided, please know that both the CDE and CDSS will be updating the directories on or before July 1 with the contact information for the assigned consultants, and they will be posted to the respective web pages. Additionally, you will hear from your newly assigned consultant, as applicable, around July 1. If you did not receive the consultant directories and would like to request copies, please email Brittany Sheffield at bsheffield@cde.ca.gov. And I will also add that in the chat for you. Until July 1st, please continue to contact your currently assigned consultant for any questions, technical assistance, approvals, and support. The CDE and the CDSS are continuing to collaborate to develop agreements regarding processes and procedures for contractors who will hold contracts across both departments. Once those agreements have been finalized, the CDE, ELCD, and the CDSS, CCDD will issue guidance to the field. Now over to Erica Otiono to provide updates from the Program Quality Implementation Office.
Thank you so much, Crystal. Since this is our last webinar for the fiscal year, just wanted to use this opportunity to say thank you for all of you that participated at our You Are the Heroes session. Our goal moving forward is that we will, if given permission, we'll edit the video, add a little bit more to it, and then post it on CDE's webpage. So stay tuned. We'll let you know if we get permission to. So that way, if we get the permission to do so, we would really like to do that. So that for those of you that missed it, you get to see the wonderful way that we said thank you and showed our appreciation for all the good work that you do and you have done and will continue to do. On that line also, wanted to acknowledge for those of you that sent us email and phone calls about that heroes. Thank you so much. We say thank you to all of you for the emails that melted our hearts and all the phone calls that we got for the end of year. You are the heroes. Thank you so much. Not to bore you, but there will be more coming later on. After the fiscal year. For this year, we did a lot. So again, kudos to all of you for your support in doing what we did this last fiscal year. It's not over, we have a few more days to the end of the fiscal year. But for this year, we did about 96 reviews. Fantastic. We changed the way we did the program self-evaluation. So far, we have received about 90% of that. We have a few agencies that have not completed their program self-evaluation. So please, if you can, we've sent email out to you. So if you can, please make sure to respond. It's good to know where you are, what you've done, so we can use that information to inform what we do moving forward. Consultant caseload, thank you, Crystal. Already mentioned to you that we have the consultants' assignments already done. We have the phone numbers and the email information, so we're going to update all that information and post them to the website so you have someone to contact. But if not, you can always reach out to me. My name is Erica Otiono. My email right now is still the same, which is EOTIONO, my first initial last name, at cde.ca.gov. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll continue the work. So now I'm going to hand it over to Alan for the fiscal piece. Over to you, Alan.
All right, thank you, and good morning, everyone. So my name is Alan Lynch, and I am a manager in the Child Development and Nutrition Fiscal Services, or CDNFS units. And today we have just a few fiscal updates for you. First on our fiscal list is a topic I know we've been getting a lot of questions about, and that is the reserve account. To start with, the first bullet is about the current fiscal year, the 2020-21 reserve account. For the 2021 fiscal year, the calculations for the reserve accounts are not changing. The laws and regulations surrounding reserve accounts are no different this year than they have been in past years. This means that transfers into or out of the reserves will be calculated as normal, and that includes the standard combination of CSCP and CCTR contract types into the same reserve account. The only thing that is changing in the 2021 reserve account is how you'll be submitting the annual reserve account activity report. This report, like most other reports, has migrated to the new online system, the Child Development Provider Accounting Reporting Information System, or CPARIS. For each reserve account type that your agency has, please be sure to submit the corresponding reserve account activity report in CPARIS so that your fiscal analyst will be able to properly calculate your year-end reporting. Okay, so the second bullet on this slide is about the future of reserve accounts, starting with the 21-22 fiscal year. I want to be very clear, just as Virginia was saying earlier, that at this time, the transition trailer bill language has not been finalized and approved as part of the budget process. We do not know all the final details yet. However, and the most important point I want to make about this is that any changes that are contained in the budget will go into effect during the 21-22 fiscal year. As the budget and trailer bill is finalized, CDE will begin issuing guidance and work with the Department of Social Services where necessary. However, any changes that impact reserve amount caps or any necessary splitting of the reserve accounts will not impact your reserve accounts in the current fiscal year. For this reason, we want to make it very clear that contractors do not need to spend their reserve account funds in the next 2 weeks in order to try to avoid some sort of billing come June 30th, 2021. Because the trailable language has been posted to the Department of Finance webpage, I thought I would go over just a couple of the items we have heard a lot of questions about. Again, I want to reiterate that this language is not final, and it's possible that the 2 changes I'm going to discuss will not be made. But we wanted to let the field know that some items, what some items are that are going to be possibly included. For starters, the preschool, with preschool remaining at CDE, while other direct service contract types like CCTR move to DSS, we wanted to point out that currently the reserve account cap at both departments for these direct service contracts will remain at 15% of the sum of the applicable contract type of maximum reimbursement amounts, or MRAs, or $2,000, whichever is greater. Additionally, included in this change is the removal of the language that requires that 10% of that 15% to be spent only on professional development for CSPP staff. Again, I just want to say that if changes are made in the 21-22 trailable language on these reserve accounts, it will not impact the 2021 reserve account. But again, I want to reiterate the point. This has not yet been signed into law. The language is just a proposal, and we will provide guidance in the coming weeks as the language is finalized. Okay, moving on to our next fiscal update. I have some information for our alternative payment or CAP contractors. On or around April 9th, 2021, CAP contractors received an email that CDE was processing an amendment to add allocations to the CAP 0 contract for several purposes. Among those were the extension of emergency child care through June 30, 2022, and for new emergency child care enrollments for services through June 30, 2022. These additional funds for emergency child care were added to the CAP 0 contract, which was also extended to June 30, 2022. So by close of business today, actually, all CAP contractors should receive an additional email regarding an advance apportionment payment related to the emergency child care augmentation. Given the time of year and the normal apportionment calculation, the CDE is aware that some CAP contractors may not have enough cash on hand to continue paying providers beginning in July for continued emergency child care enrollment or to enroll new emergency child care families. The email that CAP contractors will be receiving will inform them of the dollar amount they will receive as an advanced apportionment payment. As soon as the recent augmentations are executed, so those amendments that went out, as soon as they are executed, CDNFS will authorize an advanced apportionment payment to CAP contractors that represents 40.8% of the additional funding that was received specifically for emergency child care. This amount will be issued as a separate check, and contractors can expect to receive them as early as, surprise, today, depending on when your augmentation was executed. So definitely be on the lookout for these advanced apportionment payments, or make sure you return your signed amendments if you have not yet done so. Okay, and for our final fiscal update today, I want to briefly provide some information related to changes in contractors assigned fiscal analysts. So with staff turnover, promotions, and more at CDE, there have been a number of changes in county caseload assignments for your fiscal analysts. These updates have been made in our systems and are now on our website. If you need to find the contact information for your fiscal analyst, there are 2 main locations to do so. The first is the CDNFS Fiscal Apportionment Analyst Directory on our website, which is here on the screen, and Andrea will drop that into the chat now. The second location for finding your fiscal information is actually in CPARIS. When logged into our online reporting system, the information for your fiscal analyst is located at the bottom of the screen. As we look forward to the 21-22 fiscal year, we understand that contractors have questions about who their fiscal analyst will be or where they can find that information. At this time, we cannot say who the fiscal analyst will be for each county after the transition. However, what we can say is that for at least the first quarter, as analysts continue to close out the 2021 fiscal year, we will not be assigning counties to 2 analysts. A single analyst will continue to assist contractors through the first quarter of the new fiscal year. This information will continue to be available on the CDNFS Analyst Directory. As we move deeper into the transition and analyst assignments begin to split between the two departments, CDE and DSS will make contractors aware of who their fiscal contacts are for their contract types. Additionally, there are some planned updates to CPARIS so that both fiscal analysts will have their contact information provided, and we will also update our website at that time. And that is it for today's fiscal update. I will now turn it over to Shane for some information on parent appeals.
Hi there. So this is Alana, and just to make sure that we are 508 compliant, which is our compliance to make sure that this webinar is accessible to all, I am going to ask that Alan please read out loud the link. And then once Alan is done, then we will happily have Shane.
Yeah, of course.
All right, thank you so much.
So the link for the CDNFS Fiscal Apportionment Analyst Directory is https://www.cde.gov/fg/aa/cd/faad.asp.
Perfect, thank you. And now I'll re-welcome Shane.
Thank you, Alana. Okay, hello everybody. My name is Shane Giordani, and I'm currently managing the Early Learning and Care Division's Appeals Unit. Regarding parent appeals for the California State Preschool Program, also known as CSPP, please know that there will be no change to the appeals process for CSPP parent appeals. Parents can still submit CSPP related appeals to elcdappeals@cde.ca.gov, so elcdappeals@cde.ca.gov, or to the CDE's fax number, which is 916-323-6853. Also, please know that the CDE recognizes that contractors have questions related to parent appeals after the transition. We want to assure you all that the CDE will be working with the California Department of Social Services on a process to address situations where an appeal may affect or may impact programs at both departments, and we will release guidance on that once the process has been finalized. And now back to Alana.
Excellent, thank you, Shane. Okay. So thank you, everybody. Our team has been answering a lot, so I'm going to see which ones the team has tagged for answering live, and we can get to those first. Let's see, there's one here. So CDE released a notice, and I'm going to ask for Virginia Early to unmute herself. We released a notice on June 16th stating that the family fees are waived for the fiscal year 21-22. Is there a mechanism in place to ensure all providers and programs will be paid without delay in July? With the reduction in family fees, providers should not bear the cost of a waiver of family fees.
Thanks, Alana. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Andrea, for some extra comments after I finish. So I want to start by just reiterating what I have said regarding family fees. So because I know that there are a lot of questions in addition to the one you read, Alana, about well, which families are family fees waived for, what time period, and all that. So I want to reiterate it that at this time we don't know. There are multiple different things being considered as part of negotiations. I can tell you what one proposal and another proposal and another proposal is, but we can't tell you what will finally shake out of those negotiations. So so just to reiterate our guidance is and to answer the questions that we've been getting, one of the proposals is for all family fees to be waived, but we don't have the trailer bill language for exactly what that would look like yet, and we don't know how that will be factored into the negotiation. So unlike this year, it would be for all families, not just those that are distance learning. However, there are other things that are being considered as well. So the email that we released on June 16th is really telling contractors, FYI, there might be something different here from the status quo. We don't want you to be surprised because you probably won't hear about it for another 1 or 2 weeks about the final decision. And so if it creates more efficiencies for you to not collect those fees, so that, and then the sort of true up, and in a week or two, once we are able to give more guidance, that's why we sent that email asking you to hold off on billing and collecting. Because what happens, for example, if you assume business as usual and then all family fees are waived in July, suddenly you need to process refunds. And so we're hoping to spare contractors that. What happens if you collect family fees, but then the architecture of how family fees are collected changes? You have to true that up as well. So we don't really know what the final result would be, but we wanted to alert you all that this may be an area you want to kind of hold off and wait on for more guidance once we see the budget. So Andrea, can you unmute and sort of speak to why, I know that this question Alana read, there's some fiscal trepidation from folks. Do they have the money to afford this without a budget appropriation? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, hi, this is Andrea Johnson from the Fiscal and Administrative Services Division. So we are, if you do not collect family fees, basically our calculation does not take that into account. And when I say collect, I mean report what you're expecting to receive in family fees. So if you're not reporting that amount, we're not subtracting anything out from your reimbursement. And so essentially we're paying at the full rate of reimbursement that you would receive if you were not collecting family fees. Additionally, because this is coming in July, potentially at the beginning of the fiscal year, remember that we do advance that first quarter of your payment. So all contractors, and that does not take any consideration for family fees collected or expected to be collected by the contractor. It's just the first quarter. So it's either 33.3% for AP or 25% for the other contract types. So you'll receive that advanced apportionment, and you'll have those. You'll therefore have sufficient funds to cover whether or not family fees are waived.
Thank you, Virginia and Andrea. So to go with this flow, there's another family fee question. And so I'm going to ask that it's Virginia and Andrea again. So if the family fees are waived, and from the previous responses, that contractors will be reimbursed of those fees, what will be used to determine the amount contractors will receive?
So we, of course, have not done the allocation for 21-22 on this yet, but we would likely use data from prior years. It's the data that we have, but honestly, we haven't gotten there yet. And of course, these are going to be both CDE and DSS programs, so we'll be collaborating with DSS as well on this.
I think I'd also like to add in here, we don't have the budget language yet. So not only do we not know the final policy that the state will have on family fees, but we also don't know that, what rules will be put in for both DSS and CDE to follow when implementing it. Because if the depending on how the statute is written, it may require us to do different things. And so without knowing, number one, what the policy for family fees is, and number two, how that policy will be written, we can't go too deep into a question about how we'll administer that.
Awesome, thank you. I know there's a lot of questions still about what ifs in terms of family fees, and as Virginia and Andrea have stated, as soon as we know, you will know. Let's see, what else can we tap?
Yeah, and I think maybe I'll address something on that. I know that wasn't quite a question, but I know that some have asked in the chat, like, when are we expecting this budget? Really, we're hoping soon. You know, the state fiscal year starts July 1, so that's coming up pretty quick now. We know that the negotiations are ongoing. There's an unprecedented amount of money this year for the governor and the legislature to determine how to allocate. And so definitely a lot of decisions to be made there. So I think, you know, we're going to continue to be very communicative about how these conversations evolve and continuing to communicate with our contractors via our listserv as there are things that we think you all may need to know. And I know that, you know, there's some people that are saying, well, will we not know till the end of July? I think if it gets to a spot where this is really dragging out and we still don't have an answer, we'll follow up with more guidance. But our hope is that we'll have something more detailed to say in the next week or two.
Awesome. Thank you, Virginia. Okay, so we're going to shift gears for just a moment. I'd like to ask Alan back. So there was a question about how long can we keep reserve accounts on the books?
Yeah, thank you, Alana. I mean, Andrea can correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I'm aware, there isn't a limit to how long the reserve account can remain open, at least at this time, as long as the agency continues to report via their annual account activity report, the amount of interest that they are earning on the reserve account, as well as any other activity that involves the use of that reserve. But as far as I'm aware, there is not a limit to how long that reserve account can be open. It looks like Andrea has nothing to add on that, so I think we're good.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. You know, I've noticed a lot of questions about abandonment of care. And I know that that's not something that we spoke about in this webinar. We spoke about it in the previous webinar, as those are, the regulations have passed through the Office of Administrative Law to become in effect in July 1st. So I'd like Danielle to unmute and perhaps just mention in a sentence or two about when that guidance is going to be released and when it will be in effect. So instead of them thinking right now, perhaps they'll be thinking in the next month.
Yeah, no problem, Alana. Just for everyone to know, the regulations have been posted to CDE's website, so please feel free to look through them, read through them thoroughly. And if you have any questions, we're asking that you email them to ELCD Title 5 at cde.ca.gov, and I will also put that email in the chat so everyone can have access to it. All of your questions regarding 12-month eligibility or abandonment of care should come in through that email inbox. And please, if you do submit questions, include the type of contract that you have, the agency name and the region that you are in, so we can ensure you get the proper technical assistance and it goes to the correct consultant to answer your questions. Unfortunately, on this webinar, we're not answering specific questions regarding the 12-month eligibility regulations or abandonment of care, because a lot of them are really complicated and they're not as quick as a short little yes or no answer. So we want to make sure that all contractors are able to get the technical assistance needed to implement these regulations. So please submit all questions to ELCD Title 5 at cde.ca.gov. And again, I will put that in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. And I have some more questions for you since I know I have you. So there have been a lot of questions about what the reopening looks like in terms of distancing in classrooms, masks for children, are parents allowed back in the classroom? And so can you speak a little bit about to where those guidance will be coming from?
Sure. So the CDE is not the entity that is releasing guidance for health and safety requirements regarding COVID-19, any masking guidance, any health and safety guidance as far as people in your centers, anything like that. So if you have questions related to cohorts, masking, social distancing, all that kind of stuff, please refer to your local local county public health department or the Department of the California Department of Public Health or the Department of Social Services. Those are actually the three agencies that will release the guidance regarding health and safety as far as COVID-19. It's not actually CDE. So to ensure you're getting the most updated guidance and the most accurate guidance, please defer to those departments.
Thank you. And I've noticed a lot in the chat about a few links not working. Our links are quite sensitive. Sometimes if there's a period at the end, it ends up not working. I'll have that Brittany and Eric just kind of help and triage and make sure that the links that are posted are working. Okay, let's see. I'd like to call back Shane. There's a couple of questions about appeals. So as some programs are moving to DSS, that they're going to need to wait to hear about apparent appeals. You know, some of them are updating their NOAs to include new things. So I think the question is about appeals that have started in CDE. Will they continue at DSS or will they fall through at CDE?
So parent appeals that are for non-CSPP programs, those will be carried over to the California Department of Social Services. So those will be complete. Those that are for CSPP, those will be staying with the CDE, and we have staff here that will continue that work.
Thank you very much. Okay, there's still some more links in there. Okay, if there's a CSCP question, I'm going to send it to our nutrition person and we'll get you that response in a moment. There's still more trouble with the links. Again, our links are very sensitive, so please hold on one moment. Let's see. So there's a question here about budget and contracts. So I'm going to tap the powerful duo that is Virginia and Andrea. So once the budget is approved, how long would it take for contracts to be amended?
So we typically send out contract amendments that we refer to as Budget Act amendments each year in sometimes as early as late August, usually in September. So I would expect the same timeline this year as well.
Perfect, thank you. Let's see. So Shane, I'm going to ask you to unmute again. There's a couple of just more specific questions about NOAs and with the Department of Social Services. So one is, will we have a different appeal address for CCTR? Meaning that when they're at DSS. And then secondarily, do we know when the NOA forms with the Department of Social Service appeal contact information be available? They're kind of both the same thing.
So I don't have information on when it will be available. I can tell you that the CDE and CDSS are working together to come up with guidance for these types of questions and for NOAs and everything having to do with your forms.
Perfect, thank you. Okay. A few of them are starting to get answered. I don't want to interrupt anybody who's responding with an answer. So I'm going to tap Andrea. There's some questions regarding about purchasing approvals going over a threshold, and I see some of your staff have been answering, and then some of them are still outstanding. So can I ask you to unmute? So after July 1st, what will the process be for purchasing approvals over the threshold?
So approvals actually come through the ELCD. So that's probably a PQI question. One of the questions that I have seen though that I can address is about, we've heard contractors have made purchases, but they're not receiving the goods by June 30th, which is what's required in order to charge that cost of the current year contract. So there was no waiver for that situation, unfortunately. However, you can still charge the cost to if you're receiving those goods, July 1 and after, you can still, of course, charge those costs to your 21-22 contract. But for approval process, I'll have to pass back to ELCD.
Can I ask that? Let's see, who do we have here today? Crystal or Erica to respond to that about the approval process post July 1st?
Are you referring to the equipment purchase approvals?
Yes.
So that is, as I said earlier, the CDE and CDSS are working on agreements on items related to processes and procedures for our contractors that will have contracts across both departments. And this is one of the items that we are in discussion about, and we will release joint written guidance to the field as soon as possible.
Thank you very much. And just to reiterate, we are not utilizing the raised hand feature. If you have a question, please use it in the Q&A feature. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, it looks like the link that's not working for a lot is the June 4th PowerPoint slides. And so we'll take a look at that internally and also discuss with our TSD folks and see why that slide's not working. Thank you very much for letting us know. So Andrea, this is just a very specific question and similar to something that you had answered before. So the contracts that are moving to DSS, are those still going to be amended in September?
Yes, we'll be working with DSS on that as well. Okay. We're working along the same timelines as previous years.
Perfect. I know we only have a few more minutes left. Let's see if we can get one more question in while our team responds. Okay, so I've got a response for Shakshi. Okay. Well, while our team is continuing to to answer the open questions in the Q&A feature, let's see. While they're doing that, I'm going to ask that the slide deck move once more to the resources slides. Thank you. The ELCD COVID-19 guidance webpage is where you can find webinar slides and transcripts, even when links aren't working. Rest assured, we're going to work on that. You can also find our management bulletins, our frequently asked questions, and that is located at https://www.cde.ca.gov/sp/re/ELCD COVID-19.asp. You can also submit questions to our ELCD emergency email box at elcdemergency@cde.ca.gov. To find your PQI office regional consultant, please visit us at https://www.cde.ca.gov/sp/cd/ci/assignments.asp. Consultants are most easily reached by email. However, you can also call 916-322-6233 during business hours, where you can reach the consultant of the day. And now back to you, Erica and Stephen.
Thank you so much, Alana. On behalf of all of us, all the staff at ELCD, I want to say thank you, and let's continue to do the work so we can leave every child with roots and wings. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Stephen.
Wonderful. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Alana. So understandably, there are a lot of questions about the budget. We will be working to get information out as soon as we can, as soon as we know it. Same thing for transition-related guidance. Sometimes hearing that it's, we're working on it, it's coming out, but it isn't, a satisfactory answer, understandably. But it's also understandably, it's a lot to do in 1 year. Where smaller states have done a transition like this over a period of 3 or even 5 years. But we'll work to get information out as quickly as possible. As we close out this final webinar, to the team that has put these webinars together, and to the entire Early Learning and Care Division, Child Development Nutrition Fiscal Services Office, and Nutrition Services Division teams that have joined us, partnered with us, thank you for your tireless dedication and commitment to doing your best. You've risen to the occasion and gone above and beyond so many times this year. I've been proud to be a colleague of yours and know that regardless of where we are, we will continue to do the great work to support children and families. And to all of our programs, one final thank you in this webinar, in this final webinar of the year. Your strength and passion have helped us get to where we are today as a state. Your stories and your heroic efforts have filled our cups throughout the year. You are essential, and your contributions to children's and families' lives have impacts for far beyond these early years. Thank you for your dedication, your commitment, and love for this beautiful work. As we look beyond, again, please know that we will continue to work at CDE and with CDSS on strategies, processes, et cetera, to mitigate unintended consequences as a result of this transition. And with that, stay cool, stay hydrated, as Eric mentioned at the beginning. It's hot, and please take care of each other. Looking forward to being, we made some big steps this week. Looking forward to seeing more of you in person, hopefully in the near future. Thank you, everyone.
I am just awaiting our team to finish their last responses. I don't want them to be not answered. And also a thank you for everybody